Hi, today we're going to talk about how to write perfect prompts. I will talk in a very easy to understand language. You will understand why prompt engineering is the most important thing in developing custom AI solutions for businesses. We'll talk about 6 properties behind every high-performing prompt, and we're going to focus on single-shot prompts here. So this won't be another ChatGPT prompting tutorial. This is going to be more in-depth. We'll cover all of these separately. Then we're going to go into research-backed methods to improve output accuracy, and we have a few of these here. Then we'll talk about 4-step prompt optimization, and I will show you in real life example how it works and how are we going to use IDE tools to create our perfect prompt and to get the outcomes that we want. The benefits of effective prompt engineering is that you're going to get more accurate outputs. Your input will determine the output, and that's the biggest thing that we have control over. The second thing is you'll get faster responses. You'll get smoother workflows and customer experiences. We will be able to optimize the prompts so that the workflow works much faster. We'll have lower costs because we won't need to compensate on our bad prompt engineering skills, which means reduced token usage and wasted retries. We'll save time developing because we won't need to go back and forward to fix errors. And finally, we'll achieve the consistent brand voice as we'll have much bigger control over the outputs. So what is prompt engineering and why is it so important? As I said, the quality of our prompts determines the outputs that we get. Simply said, it's giving instructions to LLM so it can produce the results that we want. There are two different types of prompts. We have conversational prompts and we have single-shot prompts. Conversational prompts are ChatGPT, Gemini, and other solutions that are available to masses, and it's flexible, it's human operated. It allows us to go back and forward and to message it, which means we will be able to fine-tune the final outputs. On the other side, we have single-shot prompts, and that is sending a big chunk of text to LLM and expecting it to work flawlessly. It is set up in the backend, which means that we can send follow-up prompts. We can only test it, and once it's launched, it will perform the same task based on our input. Single-shot prompts are much more complex to set up initially, but once we test it out, once we reiterate it, once we optimize them with all of the steps that I'm going to show through the video, we can achieve automation and scalability, which can't be achieved with conversational prompts. Another thing I want to mention is that AI isn't some magic technology that can turn random briefs into perfect workflows. Just as if you were hiring people, if you were managing teams, if you want to get great results from your teammates, you need to give them a good brief. You'll have to explain them the goal, the time frame. You'll give them some references on what you're trying to achieve. You'll tell them more about your company. You will be there to help them to solve some blockers. So all of those things function the same with LLMs, but we just need to adapt our language. There are 6 main properties when communicating with LLMs. We have the role, we have the task, we have specifics, context, examples, and notes. This is just one example of how a well-structured prompt looks like, and we will analyze it by the end of this video so you understand every single line here. So the perfect formula defines the role, which is assigning a role of the assistant who's going to help us. The task, which means clearly defining what we're trying to achieve. Specifics, which are specific instructions, requirements, or emotional prompts, which is a very important thing that we're going to talk about to encourage deep analysis. The context, which explains the company background, task, system. Examples demonstrating ideal outputs with input and output examples, another very important thing. And notes, providing with any extra notes, formatting instructions, reminders, etc. Now let's see some research-backed methods to improve output accuracy. Output accuracy is the measurement of how objectively true the outputs are. First one is role prompting. When we define LLM a specific role, for example, expert email classifier, skill data analyst, it will perform better. When we do role prompting, the accuracy increases by 10%. When we add complementary descriptions of the LLM abilities, it further boosts accuracy by 15 to 25%. That means when we say you're a math teacher, we can increase it to up to 10%. And when we say you're a world-class mathematician, we can increase it to up to 15 to 25% more. And you can check all of these studies online to see it yourself. The next one is chain of thought prompting, which is decomposing complex tasks into multi-step problems, which is something like this. So we have number 1, number 2, number 3, all of the steps listed out, and it can increase the accuracy by 10 up to 90% on complex multi-step problems. The third one is emotional prompting. When we use brief emotional trigger phrases, it will boost LLM's engagement and it will promote more thoughtful and deliberate responses. That means giving LLM the reason on why is it important for us. For example, when they added "this is very important to my career," it improved the results significantly. It can improve LLM performance by 8 to 115%, and it also increased the truthfulness and informativeness of outputs. For example, your expertise in this matter is crucial to the success of our project, and we value your insights and recommendations. It's kinda like how to win friends and influence people, but on the LLM. The next one is few-shot prompting, which is giving desired input and output examples so the LLM understands what we're trying to achieve and what to strive for. The more examples we give out, it will understand better what we're trying to achieve, but it has diminishing returns once you pass 32 examples, which is too much. I would recommend sticking to 5 to 10 examples and it will be more than enough. This is an example of few-shot prompting. We have example 1, example 2, and example 3. Then we have lost in the middle effect. It tells us to position key instructions at the start or end of the prompt to maximize the LLM's attention. That is a weird behavior of the LLM, but when we place things on the top or the bottom of the prompt, it improves the accuracy by 20 to 25%. Then we have Markdown formatting, which isn't supported by research, but we saw that OpenAI is using it and it seems to improve the accuracy of outputs. And it means that if we apply Markdown formatting like headers, subheaders, bullet points, and we make things more clear and more organized for the LLM, it will follow it much better. So this is the example. You can use number signs, which acts like the header formatting instruction. So this will be header 1, header 1, header 1, header 2, header 1, header 3, and everything is very easy to read, both for human and for the LLM. And lastly, when you're developing complex AI solutions and workflows, it's better to segment it into multiple prompts that are connected between each other than to use one big prompt. It will minimize bad outputs as each prompt will focus just on one thing and won't be overwhelmed. 4-step prompt optimization consists of planning, which is understanding what we're trying to achieve, drafting, which is preparing the first draft, evaluation, which is testing the prompt using IDE tools like Prometheus that I'm going to show you in a bit, and refinement, which is going to be reworking the prompt variables until we're satisfied with outputs. Each of the prompts that you're developing should go multiple times between evaluation and refinement phase. For the planning questions, you should ask yourself what are the inputs, if any, which means what kind of information are you going to put into the prompt to expect some output. Where is the IP coming from, if any? So this is going to focus on the intermediate process, explaining the LLM how to take the input and what to do with it to get the desired output. What format does the output need to be in? How or where can I get 2 to 3 high quality examples of input-output pairs? Remember the few-shot prompting. Can this be done in one step? So we're going to list out all of the steps, which is bringing us back to chain of thought prompting. Which model should be used? We'll set this up in Prometheus. And does the client have specific requests? These will be the extra notes. So now I prepared an example of a prompt. Let's say that this is my first draft, and I will show you live how are we going to get this to output us perfect results. First of all, I defined the role that it's going to be an outreach message generator for LinkedIn, so we can reach out to potential clients which are going to be in the online fitness niche. As you can see, we're using role prompting, and we're very specific with who our assistant is going to be. Then we have task, which is based on chain of thought prompting. We have step 1, step 2, step 3, etc. Here we added a node for us to add input, and I will show you how to do it in Promptmetrius. Then we have specifics, which are specific instructions for the LLM. Then we have context, which is more about our company. Then we have examples, and under the question we added the input, and we have 3 variations here of the desired output that we're trying to achieve. And finally we have some nodes, and I mentioned that we want to have 3 variations per output. So now we can go into our tool and test it out and optimize it. And 2 last things before we go into Promptmetrius and test everything out are the IDEs and APIs. So what is Promptmetrius? I've mentioned multiple times. That's an IDE tool for AI developers that allows us to compose, test, optimize, and deploy prompts. You probably have understanding of what traditional coding looks like. It's writing big lines of code and testing it out, fixing bugs until developers find the best solution. This application is Visual Studio Code, and it is the equivalent of Promptmetrius, which is going to help us in the same way, but it will be much easier for us because we won't have to write codes. We'll write in plain English, but with all of the prompt engineering tips that we just mentioned before. That way we'll be able to evaluate our results and to change the variables until we're satisfied. And a quick explanation of API. API is Application Programming Interface, and that allows apps or systems to communicate with each other. And the API key is the credential, like a password, that gives us permission to use that API. You can imagine it like API being the highway and API key being a toll pass. The highway allows apps to communicate and exchange data, but you need to have your toll pass in order to get on it. If we want to use OpenAI models, we'll need to connect OpenAI's API key and to connect it with Promptmetrius. And how are we going to do that? We'll go to platform.openai.com, which is the platform for developers. So this isn't the standard ChatGPT version. This is for developers. It's more complex. You'll create an account there, and you'll have to put some credits on your balance. I put $5, and it will be much more than enough for these testings. Once you do that, you'll go to API keys. You will click here to create a new secret key. You will name it, and you will get the code that you can insert into Promptmetrius. Then we'll go to promptmetrius.com. We'll register there. You have a 7-day free trial, and then it's $30 per month. We'll go here to menu, API keys, and you'll enter your API key here under OpenAI. Once that is done, you will go into prompts and you will create a new prompt here. I will go back here and I will copy these one by one. Role, and let's rename this to role. Then we can add another block, which is going to be task. Alright, now we have everything listed out one by one. And why did we add it like that? Because in future we can add different variants. For example, if we want to test out different roles, we can then add a new variant here and we can test it out. And we couldn't do that if we had everything in one block. Here we will select the model that we want to use, and for testing we should use a better one, more expensive one. And once we fine tune the prompt, we can then use the cheaper and faster solutions. You can choose the temperature here, which adjusts determinism level, which is how random the results will be. And if we want to stick with something that's objectively true, we want to go for something closer to 0, but as this is going to be outreach message, we want to have some randomness added to it. In order for us to test out the prompt, we need to have some input. We're going to go to datasets, add a new one. We can name it offer/niche. And I'll go to ChatGPT to get 5 dummy inputs based on my prompt. So let's say, can you give me 5 dummy inputs for my prompt? And we have 5 different inputs in the right formatting, and we're going to paste them here. And also we'll separate them one by one. Alright, now we have the dataset ready. We can go here to prompt. We can also rename it to prompt test. And we can add it here under the task. We can add a dataset, offer niche, select it. And now we have 5 different inputs. And when we test it out, it will deliver us 3 variations per offer and per niche, so it will be 15 different results in the end. We can rename that to inputs, and let's go here and execute for all variants. And here we got our 5 different outputs, and each of the outputs has 3 different variations. So what the next step is, it is to evaluate what we like and what we don't like. And we have 4 options here. We can rate it great, good, neutral, or bad. And let's just set this for bad. For example, this is good, this is neutral, this is great, and this is great. And obviously when you're actually working on it, you will have to check it. You will have to see why is it good for you, what would you like to improve, etc. And that was your first round of evaluation. Now, in order for you to continue improving this prompt, you will change up different variables. You can change the role, you can change the task, you can add another task as a split test. For example, we can type, write me a good opening line for a LinkedIn outreach message. Now our task is different, and when we execute it, the output will be different as well. As you can see, the message is much shorter. It's an opening line. If we add it here, make it 1 sentence. Let's test it now. And by the way, you can check which variable is being used here. So we can see that it's using task number 3, and you can see that it's much shorter compared to where we got started. So you can change all of these variables, fine-tune it until you find what works for you, and once you start getting the tests and results that you were looking to achieve. I won't make this video too long, but in the future I will create a separate video teaching you how to optimize these prompts, how to test out different variables, and how to fine-tune it to perfection until you're getting your desired outcomes. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any additional questions, feel free to leave them below this video and I'll be glad to answer. If you want to work with me one-on-one, feel free to reach me and I'll be glad to help. Thank you so much and have a great day.